and chill. Suplex and chill. I'ma just be real. You know.
Welcome everybody to the first Suplex and Chill, the wrestling podcast, hosted by myself, KD Comedian. It will be coming out every week, covering the week in wrestling, everything that's been going on, news, reviewing pay-per-views, shows, etc, etc. Like today, for example, to kick off the first ever Suplex and Chill, we will be looking at Forbidden Door, reviewing it, going through match by match, seeing exactly what went on with that. Pretty noteworthy, pretty alright, good, it's okay pay-per-view, but we'll get to it though, we'll get to it. Each week, it won't just be me on my own. Some weeks it will be, like this week, I'm having a lone one this week to start it off with, but then other weeks I will be joined by different wrestling fans, possibly different comedians. If they're into wrestling, I will get them on this show, as long as they have a good mic. If not, then it might take a bit longer, but eventually they will be on this show. Forbidden Door though, actually. Before we get on to that though, I did want to talk about something that was actually shown to me by my non-wrestling friends, which is, it's rare for a wrestling thing to permeate the mainstream, to really get out. I mean, obviously it happens a lot more now because wrestling is a lot more popular, but that would still only be a WWE normally. Like the indie stuff, you don't see as much, but when you do, it's not normally for a good reason. Normally it's somebody botching a move, somebody, you know, I remember some of the ones recently, there was the guy that jumped off a ladder and it was going to, they were basically using a door on two chairs like a table, and as the guy jumped off to splash the other guy through it, the guy that was on the door jumped off, but as he jumped off the door kind of went on his side, so the guy just landed on the side of the door. That's one, for example, and just people trying to do dives that I have no idea what they... It's normally a really stupid botch, or one where you're like, I have no idea what he was even trying to do there. And this one, though, is neither of them. See, this, you might have seen it already. A guy called Raja Jackson, Rampage Jackson, the MMA legend, Rampage Jackson, his son. He was... Well, he's a fighter anyway. He recently got concussed, I learned today. I've learned a bit more about this as it's gone on. He was recently concussed, and then he turned up... Sorry about that, I don't know what the bloody buzzing on my phone. Forgot about that. He turned up at a indie show for the Knox Pro Wrestling. Now, Knox Pro Wrestling is owned by Rikishi and Gangrel. Most wrestling fans know those names, Rikishi and Gangrel. We're a bit unsure as to at what point it started to become a work, because what seems to have happened, there's videos showing all of this because Raja was streaming on Kick the whole time, hence why all these videos become available. You can see him at the beginning, like, hitting a beer can on Raja's head, this guy, Psycho Stu, this wrestler. And it was obvious when he did it, it was a working one, you could tell, but the guy wasn't happy about it. Maybe Psycho Stu didn't know he was concussed recently, and apparently he thought he was there to work an angle, but Raja wasn't. But at this point, once he realised that Psycho Stu, there's another video then of him apologising to him, realising what had happened, and it seemed as though they had made good. They made this apology, and then somewhere along the road, it was agreed as well that he would have a little revenge spot in the match, which I'm assuming they must have cleared with Rikishi, Gangrel, whoever the promoter is. Because I thought this was just, at first, I thought this was just a proper random indie promotion. But considering it's run by Rikishi and Gangrel, there's got to be some level of professionalism with it. There must be, because neither of them are stupid people. I mean, Rikishi's got his whole family, like, he's running WWE. So with that name attached to it, the Ananoye family, it's going to be run well to a point. So I'm assuming this stuff was cleared. He got into the ring, like hours later after this apology was done, he just got into the ring, took the guy, Psycho Stu, down, like picked him up, slammed him down, much like his dad Rampage Jackson won one of his fights famously. I think a couple. Slammed him down, knocked him out straight away, and then just mounted him and just started wailing on him. Like, not once or twice. There were so many punches. I don't understand. Eventually, one of the other wrestlers jumped in and grabbed him, and people pulled him off and that. But it took far too long, first of all, for anyone to get in there and stop him. I mean, it makes a bit more sense now knowing that it was a planned shoot, a planned work, whatever you want to call it, a work shoot. That makes a bit more sense why they didn't jump in straight away, security, etc. But it shouldn't have took long to realise what was going on. You can hear people screaming in the crowd. I don't want to show it on here because it's probably not a good start. Probably not the first thing you want to see on a new channel, on a new podcast. But I don't want to put it on here just because it's hard to watch, to be honest. So I don't want to glorify that. You see him speaking later on. The guy's bleeding out of his mouth, out of his ears, wherever you can bleed from in the head, he's bleeding. And you see another video after this of Roger in the parking lot on the phone to somebody. The person on the phone tells him that he flatlined in the ring. This isn't true. I don't know whether he did flatline, but he's not dead now anyway, is the main point. He is okay. Well, he's in hospital with fractures, facial fractures. Obviously, gotta hope there's no brain damage, stuff like that. He was outside being told by somebody on the phone that he flatlined in the ring, and his response was, "Oh, my bad. My bad. My bad, that's all. Go, yeah, I might have killed him, but my bad. Yeah, don't matter. Oh well." So, yeah. But there is a statement that has been released by Knox Pro County, so let's just get that out for you now. And I quote, "First and foremost, our thoughts and prayers are with our brother, Mr. Stuart Smith, aka Psycho Stu, as he remains a priority and we are monitoring his well-being." A representative of Knox Pro Wrestling Academy also wrote, "What was supposed to be a planned and agreed upon wrestling spot, as we said, turned into a selfish, irresponsible act of violence against Mr. Smith, aka Psycho Stu. This egregious act is reprehensible and never should have occurred. In the 17 years of operation of Knox Pro Wrestling Academy, there has never been anything as heinous take place such as this, and we apologise to our patrons and fans." The incident between Jackson and Smith was predicated by a run-in before the show, where Smith, in character, hit Jackson with a beer can. Footage from the night show, Smith later apologised to Jackson, as we said, with the two shaking hands. Me and my friend were talking about, obviously speculating as to whether this could be attempted murder, because the guy's trained, etc. And if it is attempted murder, it would be in the first degree, because, in my opinion anyway, my friend didn't agree, but it depends on the time frame, I think, as well, between the apology and then him doing this, because he must have sat on it and be festering about it for that time, so that completely changes it, in my opinion. So we have to see how long it was, but I think it was at least a couple of hours, so in my opinion, that's more in the first degree term, but there's probably more likely he would get assault or something like that, considering he is the one with money. And it seems as though his dad, Rampage Jackson, was actually goading him on too. A few people were goading him on, being like, "Oh, you can take that with these fake wrestlers," and even his dad, Rampage, was like saying something about, take stuff off oiled up men and all this. I swear Rampage had been involved slightly at some point with wrestling, but I could be wrong there. Or it might have just been that the wrestler kicked his ass. It was something like that. But, yeah, it's very messed up. And as wrestling fans, I personally, I was annoyed by this. It really annoyed me when I saw this. I think as wrestling fans, you don't want them to have to be thinking about this kind of stuff. It's just not right. It straight up, it did my nutting. And then I was able to go from this, though, and segue over, just like we're going to right now, to Forbidden Door in London. This is Forbidden Door in London. My neck of the woods. I am from England, so this is one of those rare pay-per-views where I didn't have to stay up till 1 a.m. for it to start. I was still up till 5 a.m. freaking watching it, though, because I watched it a few hours later. And it just went on so long. It was such a long pay-per-view. It seemed long anyway. I think I might have to pause it. It seemed really long. Somebody needs to let me know actually exactly how long it was. But it seemed like a very long pay-per-view. But not in a bad way. Because normally, the reason I like, skipping, going like a couple of hours, like say if it's on the 7, like, 6 like it was yesterday, I waited until 8 or 9 to start watching it, so that then I could skip forward 10 seconds through the boring bits, through the adverts, etc., etc. But it was one of those rare AEW shows where I didn't have to do any of it last night. I was engaged the whole time. We found out just before the show actually started that this is apparently the largest ever crowd in the O2. I find that hard to believe. I must have assumed it was a wrestling crowd, but apparently it was just the largest ever crowd, so I got to go with that. I can't say Tony would lie. Wrestling promoters would never lie. They don't do that. It was the largest crowd ever, and the crowd were pumped. Britain did me proud here. Britain always do well. England was the whole way through. I was thinking, oh, they're not going to be able to keep this up for long, but they kept it up the whole night. I didn't feel like the Indy dropped at any point. Maybe like a certain point to certain matches, probably, but not long enough that I could really be like, oh, it's noticeably silent. Most of the time, it was noticeably loud to the point that you couldn't hear what was going on. You couldn't hear the music. But okay, so it started off anyway with the first match, which was Edge and Christian versus the Patriarchy, aka Kip Sabian and Killswitch with Mama Wayne. The crowd was serenading Edge, so they were so loud. And I personally am glad though that Christian hasn't just changed up his gimmick. Some people are being like, "Oh, he needs to be a good guy, get the kazoos all out and all that," which maybe eventually, sure, yeah, but it would be silly if he just changed gimmicks suddenly. He's slow burning it, like he didn't want to do the hug last night after it. He's getting there. You can tell he wants to. He's still wearing the turtleneck though, so it's all good. The crowd cheered the bell. I don't know if I've ever heard that before. Edge had a proper high, snug super kick right to the mush from Killswitch. It looked very painful. Kip, disrespectful tag. You could just see it the whole way through that Kip and Killswitch were going to argue. Christian took till the 12th minute to actually reach for a tag. Killswitch had enough of Kip and slapped him, but then the match just continued and Killswitch was back in the apron and it was like nothing happened. Really pointless. I didn't understand what the point was. Not sure if Killswitch was helping Edge by putting Kip on his shoulder to do a Doomsday drop. Once again, really not sure what Killswitch was actually doing here, who he was on the side of. Not on the side of Christian, though, we know that, because he came in around the 50-minute mark Christian and they had a big old fight with the crowd singing for Killswitch. Christian threw Kip up in the air like as if he would for a proper powerbomb for Kevin Owens. Got out of the way, in which Edge speared him as he landed, which was really cool. I don't remember them ever doing that before, but I really liked that as a finish. It was really good. Edge went in for the hug, but Christian wouldn't have it and went for a handshake. So we're getting there. It's getting there, but they're not doing it too fast, which is good. I much prefer that personally. And then we had Kyle Fletcher versus another Takahashi. I don't know what his first name was. Bigger pop for Takahashi than expected. To be fair, I mean, I don't know any of the. Is it NJPW or New Japan, whichever it was. I love the Japanese announcers for it though. It just adds something for me. I don't know what it is. The crowd strangely cheer Kyle taking his trousers off. It was weird. This crowd has just been weird all night, though. There's a lot more weird stuff that will be coming. I assume there was just a lot of drinks flowing in London last night. How long? Cool one-shot moving camera angle for a couple of minutes. There was a couple of really cool camera angles in this where it was almost like the cameraman knew exactly where the action was going to happen. I don't know who the Walker guy was that was on commentary, and somehow I only noticed at 34 minutes that he was there. I'm assuming he's like a New Japan commentator or something, but not a clue. He just appeared for me. It was good action. Felt longer than 10 minutes at that time anyway, but it was good. I was getting a bit bored by the end of this one, though. And then when Kyle hit the brain buster, that was a bit of a... Well, on the apron, sorry, that looked painful. Well, no, it was a brainbuster reversal. Sorry, no, it wasn't a brainbuster. Was it? He reversed brainbuster, then powerbombed him off the apron. Takahashi did, and then Kyle just did a brainbuster and just beat him again. There's gonna be a lot of that. He had a TBS title after Mercedes Moné defending against Persephone from CMLL, Bozilla from Stardom, and Alex Windsor from AEW. During this match, I couldn't watch anyone other than Bozilla. Bozilla is awesome. Bozilla is such a badass. And she's only 21 as well. She's been doing it 3 years. Started training when she was 18. Pretty much as soon as you can train, other than those weird people that train when they were 13, apparently. You don't really quite get that, but whatever. But she started when she was 18, been in it 3 years now. And I was thinking she might be green, because the bigger girls, bigger people, you don't always know. It can be harder for them. But she was good, over 6 feet tall, just dominated for most of the match. Her mask was vaping for some reason. That was strange, though. Other than that, Mercedes Moné had Beefeaters come out, holding each one of her 9 titles now. She won another one on Friday, so she has now got 9 titles. And by the end of this match, she held onto her title, of course. I mean, of course, she was going to win. I did think for a bit that she might not. I did think if anyone else was going to win, it would have been Alex Windsor. Even more so when I learned that she's Will Ospreay's girlfriend. Yes, that makes a difference. But no, it should have been Bozilla. She had a moonsault, which was crazy. There was poison on her done from her, and there was just a roll up at 16 minutes by Mercedes Moné just out of nowhere for the win. Yeah, that match would have been boring without Bozilla, in my opinion. But he had Bozilla, so it was great. The next one, though, IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. This is 2 people, and even though I'm British, 2 people that I have no nostalgia for whatsoever. Zack Sabre Jr. and Nigel McGuinness. I had no idea why this was happening. Apparently, he won a number 1 contenders match. Also, don't really understand why Nigel McGuinness was in that number 1 contenders match. But Daniel Puder was one of the ones also in that match that he beat. So naturally, Nigel McGuinness wanted Daniel Puder to be at ringside, which we all would have assumed, okay, well, he's going to probably turn on Nigel then in that case. Yeah, not really that much. Oh yeah, there was a weird intro into this video. There was Nigel McGuinness and Johnny Saints playing chess for some reason, because old people playing chess in a park, it gets you going for wrestling. The crowd were loving these guys though. But I gotta be honest though, the title is ugly. The IWGP title is very ugly. It looks like a male's diva title. I don't get it. A holy shit chant started before anything happened when the bell started. That's how you know the crowd is into this. Danielson pointed out it's funny that he's on commentary while McGuinness is going for a world title. But he said he won't bury him for the whole match because Bryan Danielson is on commentary for this. It seems as though Taz couldn't make it to the UK, I guess. Beautiful wrist lock takedown. Heel turn, tease up camera. Garcia was just... Nigel McGuinness was just beaten suddenly. Garcia looked disappointed and a bit annoyed, to be fair, as if to say, you took this position and that's all you can do. But he didn't attack him and they just left. So, what was the point of any of this? I have no idea. The point... At this point, though, you had Nigel and Daniel Garcia in the ring, and then you had Tony Schiavone appear next to them to let everybody know again that it's the largest crowd in the O2 ever. So, cool. Tell them again. That's awesome. At that point, though, from the 0-hour fight, you had Queen Aminato and Tekla come back out fighting from backstage, who had been fighting all over the shop. Apparently for about, I worked it out, it must have been about like an hour and a half, 2 hours they were fighting. It's weird considering they fought a little bit out into the entranceway, and then she hit her, and then she fell down for like a little bit. It's almost like she waited till that moment to get out of breath, which was good because she had help. Queen Amanata had help after the Triangle of Madness attacked with a half-naked looking Sky Blue. I don't know what's going on with that gear of hers. And Jamie Hayter came off to help run off the heels. Jamie Hayter returned Then we went on to the AEW tag titles, Hurt Syndicate versus FTR versus Brodido. I was assuming on this that FTR would win because it was an elimination. So I felt like it could work that way, but apparently they said on Dynamite it was definitely an elimination, but by the time it got to this pay-per-view, it was not an elimination, it was first fall, so that changed it completely for me. Brodido have joint entrance music, so they're probably going to win now. We Hurt People was louder than any crowd I've ever heard do that. I legitimately could not hear the music over it. No MVP for some reason, no explanation why. Didn't matter though. No DQ, only 2 in at a time. I prefer 1 in, so it's like a proper triple threat. So there's 3. Sorry, I prefer 1 of each team in, so it's 3 people in at all times. But whatever, they do this a lot, you know. Commentary points out that because it's no DQ, then there's no reason for them to actually bother tagging. Like you could just all jump in and just have a big old fight, which is a really good idea to make all the tag teams seem like idiots at about the 10-second point. Well, they're sorry for a 10-second line. Less than that, like a 5-second line. FTR purposely letting Hurt Syndicate Brodido fight between them, very smart. In the end, Ricochet and Gate of Agony came out to attack the Hurt Syndicate. Last we saw of Ricochet and the Gate of Agony, they were with MJF. So, was this set up by MJF on the hopes that take Hurt Syndicate out of the equation so that they can't get in the way of him getting the world title later? Possibly. They tried to say that on commentary as well. I don't know. It just seemed more like stuff just happened more than anything. But luckily for Brody and Bandido, you know, they got that new tag team music, which is a good job because they just happened to win the tag team titles off of this with that move that they do again. It's cool. I didn't quite understand though why you had FTR taking the pin and that. Well, you want to protect Hurt Syndicate, but you had FTR taking the pin, and then now, even though they couldn't beat a push-together tag team of Brody and Bandido, they're now going to go and feud with the legendary tag team of Edge and Christian, because that makes perfect sense, that they'll be able to possibly beat Edge and Christian, but they couldn't beat Brodido. That makes perfect sense, that does. Of course they could beat a legendary tag team if they couldn't be a random-ass tag team just thrown together last minute. Of course. Onto this then, you had the Unified title, which I was calling the Undisputed title for a bit, Okada versus Swerve. I'm going to continue my, what is tradition for me when it comes to the Unified title, and generally when it comes to Okada. I'm just going to skip this match, because Okada is very boring. I mean, this was fun and all, I really like Swerve, but yeah, this was boring, because of Okada. I don't understand the hype personally. I'm sure he used to be really good a while ago. But Swerve should have won this. He ended up just getting written off TV because apparently he's been dealing with a metatarsal injury for like 6 years. He got it in the WWE Performance Center apparently. So this writ him off for that. But in a weird way, because then afterwards, because he had his leg, like, you know, put in the stairs after the match by Okada, and he had the chair slamming against the steps to hurt his leg. And then, for some reason, Wardlow then appeared and started beating up Prince Nana. Even though Swerve was like kind of there, he could get to him, but his legs were hurt, so he wasn't really moving. It looked really weird. It was just really weird framing for the whole thing. I assume he's obviously going to come back at some point and attack Wardlow and whatnot, because then Wardlow went over to join the Don Callis family, so they've got another tall person stand next to Lance Archer. And then Takeshita came out and did a nod of respect to Wardlow, who I think Takeshita won the G1, so people are liking him at the moment. But then we went on to the Women's World title. Athena versus Toni Storm is probably one of my favourite matches of the night. This was a really cool match. I wasn't even sure who I wanted to lose in that, to be honest with you. Because I never want Toni to lose because she's just extremely entertaining. but this is probably the first person that actually wanted to get that bump to not just, fizzle away into the background again. Because Athena's been doing great things on Ring of Honor, apparently. She's been like, what, a 3-year champion or long ass champion, I know that. She deserves it because who the heck watches Ring of Honor? So I did kind of want her to win, I think, but I would have been happy either way. I was already from watching just a small portion of this match, I was already bored at the idea of watching the men's world title match. I hope it's just this. I was really hoping it was just this match and the world title in the cage, and it was, which was not a too badly timed pay-per-view, even if the last match should go on forever. Tony is over just everywhere. She looks really weird though with the posture and makeup. That's all I could say once I realised it was kind of freaking me out, to be completely honest with you, to the point that I couldn't really focus on much else from that point until Tony won. The end. Storm Zero, I believe it was, that she used to win. Don't quote me on that. It might have been a big package. But this took us on to the AEW World title, then Hangman versus MJF, where the title could change hands via DQ and by count out. This personally just seemed completely thrown together to me. And then MJF just threatening to set fire to Mark Briscoe so that he didn't have to use so he could get all the demands, the DQ stuff, title changing hands from a count out as well, and DQ, and that he didn't have to use his contract. So we just assumed he was going to lose this match, then probably fail to, do the contract and then fail with that as well. Apparently not, though. We'll get to that in a moment, though. That's not what happened. London was singing along just as loud to MJF's song for some reason. We had a super quick Hangman entrance, and it seemed as though maybe they were running late or something, because Hangman just jumped in. Like, MJF didn't even get a chance to get up on the ropes and hold his ring up like he does before Hangman's music started. So I was hoping that meant it wasn't going to be a long match. It didn't feel like it was that long of a match, to be fair. There was a lot of questionable things in this, though. For some reason, Hangman at one point, when he looked like, say if you imagine where MJF would be about to give Hangman a superplex into the ring, but Hangman blocks it and then grabs his head and starts thrusting with his crotch at his head. I don't know why. Somebody said something about talk about his fair play, and I have no idea when they're trying to say that MJF thrusted him first. It seemed like they went away from Hangman for a while so that he could get some colour, which he never seemed to get, so I'm assuming he failed. MJF then eventually got hit in the head, and he did manage to get a lot of colour. Hangman eventually, though, would just beat him, and he didn't use the contract for insurance. He didn't do anything. It just ended. So I don't know if maybe other stuff was supposed to happen and they had to cut it out because of timing, as we said at the beginning. Possibly, maybe. But it seemed really random. And I don't know, maybe I'll just assume, actually, that they had to cut something out from the ending, because now it feels like we're just going to continue the MJF feud, or we're not, and he's going to have that title for 8 years. The contract, for 8 years. But then it came on to the lights out cage match. This is the one that most people were looking forward to seeing. Let's see if I can remember all the people, actually. So it was the Young Bucks, Gabe Kidd, Claudio, John Moxley, versus Darby Allin, Will Ospreay, Darby Allin, Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega. What's them people's name? Two of the Japanese people, I can't remember their names. Ishii something. The Golden Lover guy. I was assuming it was going to be a win for the good guys. Going to be a murder fest. Looked at it as well, all through the night. I was looking at the cage, and I was like, that's bigger than a normal cage. And it was. It was, if you imagine the size that a cell would be, maybe even wider. But Hell in a Cell, just without the roof, is what it was. Giant cage. It It was a pin and submission only, so out the cage didn't count. Although, yeah, people did go out the cage actually in the end, but not that much really happened from that, I would argue. This crowd was still so damn loud and energetic at this point. I have no idea how. This match went on for like an hour and they were pumped the whole way through it. This must have been like 5-6 hours. That's not including the pre-show as well, which is talking like 7 hours or something like that. It was, with the entrances, this match was an hour. They taped Darby Allin to a chair very early, and started jabbing him with a fork, and then into his ear as well. It looked like the stretcher part of his ear. They were jamming a fork into it, but he was actually bleeding from his ear. It might have been bleeding a bit before that from his ear. It was a bit hard to exactly tell what was bleeding. Darby was also thrown out the ring in a gorilla press slam into the cage very hard, as you can imagine. Darby would be one to ask them to do it to him very hard. Teammates were just watching all this happen to Darby, by the way, from outside, just watching him getting stabbed up in the ear with a fork and then thrown around while still taped to the steel chair. They were trying to throw then Darby from the top of the cage, through a pile of tables that Wheeler Yuta and Marina Shifra had set up outside, but they never really got they did get a chance later on to do that. I'm trying to remember exactly who it was actually that went through the table. It was Gabe Kidd and I think it was Gabe Kidd and Darby Allin, to be fair. Just kind of didn't really do anything spectacular, just kind of pushed each other off. It was like the one was kind of doing a headlock on the top, and I think Darby Allin just kind of pulled them both down. If I'm going down, you're coming with me, boy. Kind of one. And I think that was the majority. We had a barbed wire table that did cut up Moxley's back pretty well, to be fair. There was a lot of just gnarly slams and kicks and naturally the Young Bucks had asked someone in production to fill a bag with the nastiest stuff they could, like barbed wire, thumbtacks, all that kind of stuff. So when they emptied it, somehow they didn't realise it was filled with gummy bears. So naturally a few of them did some slams into the gummy bears and you got a holy shit chant for that, which is great. It's hard to really break this match up into the different bits because it all molded into one. It was an hour as well. I was very tired by this point when I was watching it, so I had to keep rewinding because I felt like I'd fall asleep and miss bits. So it'd be one of the matches to I might rewatch again. I say that, I never do though. But yeah, I might do. I'm not even sure who won. I think the good guys won. I think Ospreay and them won. Ospreay had already said, he's probably going to have to leave to have neck surgery after. But after they'd won, they'd all left the cage. Other than Ospreay, he was the last one to leave. And then the fighters jumped back in, locked the cage, and Moxley proceeded to do like 4 or 5 paradigm shifts, just one after another, to Ospreay, obviously selling the injury for his neck, so that they can now say, rather than just wear and tear, John Moxley, the Death Riders, took him out. Which I hope to God doesn't mean that the Death Riders are going to be around for like another year and a half until Ospreay's back around, but it very well could mean that. And if that is the case, then thank God that we have WWE still. Because tonight, as of the day of recording, we have WWE Raw that we'll be getting to. And then, of course, we have Wednesday Dynamite. I'm not too sure where Collision is this week because you have SmackDown on Friday and then Clash in Paris, I believe, is Saturday. So if so, then you'll probably have Collision on a different day, most likely. Or maybe not, just because it's on earlier, because it's Paris again. So I imagine it'd be like an 8 p.m. start. For me, an 8 p.m. start in the UK. For you guys, middle of the morning, Wounda. You have to deal like we deal. Just do what we do, man. Just watch it the next morning, or just stay up and get drunk and high and watch it. I know we'd never do that because we're good people. That's what you could do, though. But I will be back every week with different guests, sometimes on my own, sometimes different guests. We'll review shows like this one. We'll do different things, talking about some of the stuff that's been going on, some of the main talking points. Like the next show will have a few more magazine elements to it, such as the Carrying Cross work, which the Carrying Cross, which in my opinion has never been a work, because they don't think of Carrying Cross the same way as they think of Seth Rollins. It's going to be just a place as well, though, for good wrestling takes, because so many wrestling takes on the internet right now are terrible, and I have no idea why. They're just horrendous. It's not good at all. Stop it. Just stop it. So I'm going to be here to give you the good takes. We're going to have the little videos with the random little news bits. We'll have the long podcast each week like this. We'll have little bits and bobs. We'll figure it out. But if you're a wrestling fan and you like podcasting too, and you don't hit the mic like I just did, then hit me up if you want to come on the show. thehinken23@gmail.com. That's THEHIN for November, KEN for November, 23@gmail.com. Or just find me on KD Comedian on Facebook, or KD Comedian and Podcasts on YouTube, or on Spotify, Apple, KD Comedy Podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. You can find KD Comedy Podcast with new episodes of Squishy Logic and 2Ps in the podcast available on there. And then here, you will always be able to find Suplex and Chill every week here for your ear holes. But for now, you chill out, and I won't have to slam you. Yeah. Bye.
Suplex Super.
I'ma just be real.